Good evening, this is George Will reporting. Tonight we have a major development. Divorce documents have now been finalized in what insiders describe as the most crushing result imaginable for Meghan Markle. Prince Harry has received sole custody of their two children, Archie and Lilibet, while Meghan has been awarded zero parenting rights, no alimony payments, and is now subject to immediate removal proceedings from the United Kingdom. Court filings submitted to the Los Angeles Superior Court on February 24, 2026, on BD 262847, show that this agreement marks a total legal defeat for the Duchess of Sussex following an intense 16-month struggle over custody. That battle brought to light what family court officials characterized as repeated dishonesty, efforts to turn the children against their father, and ongoing breaches of custody arrangements starting right when separation actions began in October 2024. What stands out most about this ruling isn't just Harry's success in obtaining full custody, but the precise conclusions the family court judge laid out in the official decision. Superior Court Judge Patricia Morrison determined that Meghan exhibited an ongoing pattern of conduct aimed at distancing the children from their father. She breached required communication guidelines on 43 recorded instances, tried to take the children out of California without necessary approval, and gave untrue statements about her finances, her adherence to court directives, and what the children reportedly wanted. These conclusions go well beyond the usual balanced language seen in family court resolutions, where fault is often shared between both sides in a relationship's breakdown. Rather, they amount to a formal judicial finding that one parent deliberately worked to damage the other's bond with the children, while showing intentional disrespect for the legal safeguards meant to shield youngsters during a family's breakup. The implications reach much further than a typical high-profile split. This matter sets important legal standards for handling parental alienation in bitterly contested custody cases. It reaffirms that individuals connected to the British royal family get no special favors in U.S. family courts when decisions focus on what's best for the children. It shows that financial resources and public influence cannot override clear records of disregarding court mandates. And it demonstrates that family courts will fully revoke parenting rights when proof indicates a parent places their own goals ahead of the children's well-being. For those who've tracked the Sussex story since the couple stepped back from royal responsibilities in January 2020, this resolution brings to a close trends that many people spotted long ago, trends that major news organizations largely avoided scrutinizing until courtroom evidence, previously kept under seal during the marriage, had to be made public. Before moving forward, it's important you grasp a key point about the details you're about to hear. What I'm sharing this evening draws from restricted court files accessed properly after the final judgment, accounts from 12 individuals involved in the custody review, financial paperwork introduced during the evidence-gathering phase, and lawyer exchanges that entered the public domain when Meghan's legal representatives tried to contest Judge Morrison's decisions. This isn't guesswork. This isn't hearsay. This isn't sensational tabloid material. Every detail here can be confirmed via official court documentation, and I'll reference exact file numbers and submission dates as we go through this examination. If you're someone who puts facts ahead of spin, if you're interested in seeing how things arrived at such a one-sided and painful end for one side, and if you're frustrated by news sources that won't cover stories about influence, responsibility, and real outcomes fairly, then subscribe to this channel immediately. The revelations coming up aren't appearing in any conventional media outlet. They have reasons to safeguard particular storylines. My priority is laying out the proof plainly. The divorce agreement, completed on February 24, 2026, wraps up a custody conflict that started when Prince Harry submitted his separation petition on October 17, 2024, listing irreconcilable differences and seeking main physical custody of both kids. The original submission, at first kept confidential, but later released publicly amid appeals, outlined troubling conduct by Meghan. This included blocking Harry's unsupervised access to the children unless she monitored it, deliberately arranging the kids' events to clash with his scheduled parenting periods, encouraging the children to voice reluctance about time with their father, and working with press contacts to release articles depicting him as distant or unfit during times when court rules barred him from replying openly. The starting petition asked for interim custody guidelines to set a standard parenting timetable, while the court performed a thorough assessment to decide what arrangement best served the children. How can we be certain these claims weren't just standard mudslinging common in heated divorces? The proof comes from the detailed custody review process that Judge Morrison required. On November 3, 2024, only 17 days after Harry's first submission, the court named Dr. Rebecca Chen, a forensic psychologist experienced in complicated custody fights, to carry out an in-depth assessment. This included psychological exams for each parent, specialist interviews with the children, discussions with outside observers such as nannies, educators, home employees, and relatives who'd seen parent-child dynamics firsthand, examination of all pertinent messages about the kids between the parents, and in-home observations of each parent's interactions with the children in their living settings. Dr. Chen's assessment, finished across 6 months and submitted as a 237-page document to the court on May 15, 2025, delivered conclusions so damaging to Meghan's case that her lawyers tried without success to block its inclusion, questioned Dr. Chen's qualifications and approach via their own experts, and pushed for Judge Morrison's removal once she signaled the report would carry substantial influence on the outcome. Dr. Chen's work stands out for its thorough approach and the alignment of results from diverse, unrelated sources. She held 7 distinct sessions with Archie, then age 5, applying child-friendly methods like play-based activities, narrative exercises, and guided talks meant to evaluate bonds and preferences without steering or prompting answers. For Lilibet, age 3 at the time, she held 4 adapted sessions accounting for the child's developmental stage and limited speech skills. She spoke with 47 people who had direct views of parent-child exchanges, including 16 past or present household employees, 8 educators or caregivers, 12 relatives from each side, 7 close family acquaintances, and 4 mental health experts who'd worked with family members. 23 text exchanges, 37 emails, and 42 hours of preserved phone recordings collected under court rules mandating supervised parental contact channels. She administered standardized psychological evaluations to both parents, covering tools like the Minnesota Multifaceted Personality Inventory, Parenting Stress Index, Parent-Child Relationship Inventory, and targeted tests for narcissistic tendencies and ability to co-parent effectively. The repeated patterns emerging from all these separate inputs elevate Dr. Chen's findings from one specialist's view to strong, dependable evidence that Judge Morrison could trust fully. When 47 unrelated observers report matching behaviors, when children's comments across repeated sessions match recorded communications, when testing uncovers traits that precisely forecast the documented actions, the overall assessment gains a level of reliability that's extremely difficult to discredit. Meghan's legal team recognized the strength here, which explains their heavy efforts to suppress the report instead of accepting its conclusions and bargaining for any continued parenting involvement. The material introduced over the 16-month process organizes into 8 primary areas, each highlighting aspects of the conduct that ultimately convinced Judge Morrison to grant Harry complete custody with no immediate visitation for Meghan until she finishes mandated therapeutic steps. These aren't separate events, but linked parts of a deliberate strategy for influencing custody that Dr. Chen labeled in her report as classic parental alienation syndrome, a well-established concept in family law where one parent intentionally weakens a child's connection to the other through direct remarks, example, setting, and situational control meant to shift the parent's resentment onto the children. The initial key area involves direct disruption of court-specified parenting time. Under California family law, once interim custody rules take effect, parents must follow the outlined timetable unless true emergencies force changes via approved legal means. Evidence from Harry's counsel showed Meghan breached the temporary order Judge Morrison set on November 10, 2024, in 43 separate documented cases from November 2024 through September 2025. These breaches covered booking medical visits for the children during Harry's assigned periods without the mandatory week, a head notice or valid urgent medical cause, arranging overseas trips with the kids during his time, using supposed sickness or injury as excuses for withholding them, only to appear publicly with the children at outings during those same windows, failing to present the children at agreed handover spots and times, insisting Harry go through her lawyer instead of the required co-parenting app, and directing home staff to bar Harry from the property at exchanges, making him remain outdoors while staff brought the children out. Multiple sources verified each incident. The court required our Family Wizard app logs, all messages with permanent timestamps accessible to both parties and the court, medical office confirmations, timestamped appointments during Harry's slots, travel records from border controls and location, tagged social media posts confirmed trips abroad, public images disproved illness claims used to deny access, video from home security and neutral handover sites captured obstructions. The repeated pattern points to purpose, not accident or misunderstanding. Occasional lapses might happen from misreading schedules or real crises, but 43 breaches over 10 months, despite alerts from the court and the other side, indicate deliberate defiance, suggesting a view that rules don't apply or that breaking them advances a goal despite risks. In her final decision, Judge Morrison directly commented on this conduct, observing that Meghan's persistent breaches, even after repeated judicial cautions about possible custody loss, showed either an inability to place the children's requirements above her own wishes or a deliberate calculation that serious penalties wouldn't follow. Either way, the judge concluded it warranted changing custody since children depend on parents who respect legal frameworks built to safeguard them. The second primary area covers recorded examples of alienation via direct interactions with the children. California family courts treat severe parental alienation as significant emotional harm that can support fully ending custody rights. Dr. Chen's analysis reviewed children's statements from interviews, overheard remarks reported by staff, and actions indicating coaching or influence to form negative opinions of their father. In the report, Archie 5 during early sessions said things like, "Daddy made mommy sad so she cries. Mommy says daddy's family was mean to us. I don't want to go to daddy's house because mommy will be lonely, and mommy says daddy chose his old family over us." These revealed troubling elements, assigning adult feelings to the father and making the child feel responsible for the mother's distress, offering a skewed account of family issues that casts one parent as victim and the other as wrongdoer, applying emotional leverage by implying time with father hurts mother, framing father's ties to his original family as disloyalty to his kids instead of healthy extended bonds. Dr. Chen highlighted that the phrasing and ideas exceeded what a typical 5-year-old would create alone. The organized storytelling, consistent victim-perpetrator framing, and calculated guilt around mother's isolation all pointed to the child echoing adult explanations rather than sharing personal views. Follow-up sessions using methods to separate coached from genuine responses showed wavering and uncertainty in Archie, reinforcing evidence of adult influence over authentic feelings. Staff accounts supported Dr. Chen's conclusions from child sessions. Former nanny Maria Gonzalez, employed from June 2023 to January 2025, reported hearing Meghan say in front of the children things like, "Your father doesn't really want to spend time with you. He just wants to look good for his family. If we lived in England, they would take you away from me because they hate me. Your father's family thinks I'm not good enough, and they think you're not good enough either. And when your father is late, it shows he doesn't care about you as much as I do. Such remarks functioned in several ways to alienate, casting father's parenting time as superficial image building, instilling fear of his relatives as dangers instead of loving connections, projecting rejection from Meghan onto the children to create insecurity about their worth, turning small timing issues into proof of unequal parental devotion. 3 additional staff members gave comparable accounts of hearing Meghan criticize Harry, doubt his dedication to the kids, depict his family as antagonistic or risky, and apply pressure for the children to side with her against him. The agreement across accounts from different periods and individuals with no clear reason to invent claims greatly bolstered the alienation proof. In her ruling, Judge Morrison stated that consistent descriptions of repeated patterns from multiple independent sources over long stretches allow the court to confidently accept the behavior as factual, not misinterpretation or spiteful fabrication. The third main area involves repeated breaches of the court's communication rules set to promote healthy co-parenting. The November 10, 2024, temporary orders required all child-related exchanges between Harry and Meghan to use the Our Family Wizard platform, a court-endorsed system that permanently records messages, timestamps everything, and permits judicial review of patterns during conflicts. The order banned direct text calls or face-to-face talks about the children except true emergencies needing instant response, with those to be logged in the app within 24 hours, explaining the exception. Harry's lawyers documented 78 violations of this rule by Meghan between November 2024 and September 2025. These included texting Harry's phone about schedule adjustments, demands for activities during his time, and critiques of his parenting, leaving voicemails on his line with accusations, change requests, and remarks about his family's involvement with the kids, emailing his staff contacts with child-related demands outside the approved system, trying to discuss parenting matters at exchanges despite rules limiting talk to immediate child safety issues, and passing instructions to the children to relay to their father about schedules or requirements that belonged in formal channels. These breaches matter beyond rule-breaking alone. The monitored platform exists precisely to block hostile, controlling, or improper exchanges typical intense custody situations. Repeatedly bypassing it signals either lack of restraint in inappropriate impulses or intentional choice to use forbidden methods known to violate standards. The tone of Meghan's unauthorized messages reinforced the deliberate view, with court filings quoting hostile wording, personal insults, and threats that clearly contradicted expectations for respectful, child-centered interaction. When Harry's team sought penalties for these violations, Meghan's side argued the app was impractical for pressing issues and that Harry's slow replies on it excused other methods. Judge Morrison dismissed this, pointing out instant notifications in the app and that claimed urgencies involved everyday scheduling, not qualifying as emergencies. The fourth key area deals with inaccurate financial reporting intended to lower child support duties and hide relevant resources for custody decisions. California requires detailed financial statements from both parties within 60 days of separation filing, covering income, holdings, liabilities, and costs. These help set child support levels, show available means for kids' needs in each home, uncover concealed wealth-affecting asset splits, and equip courts to make financially sound custody choices. Forensic accountant Margaret Lynn from Berkshire Financial Advisory, working for Harry, showed that Meghan's December 12, 2024, disclosure substantially underreported income and assets while exaggerating expenses to appear needy and reduce support payments. It claimed $14,000 monthly from media and podcast efforts, but subpoenaed bank records revealed $47,000 monthly averages from contracts, fees, and deals. The Montecito home was valued at $8.2 million, but assessments and sales comparisons showed over $14.6 million. Expenses were listed at $38,000 monthly, covering mortgage, utilities, staff kits, yet statements indicated actual spending near 62,000, excluding some child costs shifted elsewhere. These weren't small oversights or honest miscalculations, but organized underreporting of over 200,000 yearly income, undervaluing the main home asset by more than 6 million, and expense distortions to heighten apparent hardship. When confronted via motion for sanctions, Meghan attributed errors to her business team and called them unintentional. Further probes showed she personally reviewed and signed the forms under oath, that accurate numbers came from managers but were altered pre-filing, and that all changes reduced support obligations rather than varying randomly. Judge Morrison tackled this in her final ruling, noting that submitting false financial details reveals a readiness to treat court processes as tactics rather than truth-based mechanisms for children's benefit. Combined with custody and communication violations, it formed a pattern of viewing orders as barriers to navigate rather than mandatory rules. This raised grave doubts about her ability to follow any custody setup requiring her to place legal protections for children above personal desires. The fifth area focuses on efforts to disrupt the children's ties to their father's extended relatives. A central element of the Sussex circumstances has involved Harry's connections to his birth family, especially King Charles and Prince William. Proceedings revealed Meghan worked to block or discourage bonds between the children and paternal grandparents, uncle, aunt, and cousins via refusing pre-arranged video calls, citing tiredness or conflicts despite advanced planning, turning down holiday visits to England that wouldn't affect school, telling the children their English relatives were disapproving or unkind toward their mother, and telling staff to restrict or filter calls from Harry to his family when kids were around to avoid positive mentions. Proof came from various places. King Charles's private secretary submitted declarations about 16 planned video sessions from January to September 2024 canceled by Meghan shortly before, with reasons like post-school fatigue for Archie, naps for Lilibet, important playtime, or tech problems. Rescheduling attempts met responses that schedules allowed calls only monthly at most. Prince William's team reported similar repeated denials. Staff testified to instructions from Meghan to tell Harry the children were unavailable for family calls even when present and able. Dr. Chen's evaluation highlighted benefits children gain from extended family, extra affection, support, identity, and heritage ties. She noted Harry's relatives aren't average. They include the current and future kings and members of a historically prominent lineage. Blocking access served no valid child purpose, but reflected Meghan's persistent resentment toward the royals, imposed on the children despite their potential interest. Judge Morrison spoke strongly on this, stating parents who weaponize children in adult disputes, block family bonds due to grudges, and favor their emotions over children's family needs show serious parenting shortcomings, warranting custody shifts. She emphasized these ties matter lifelong, especially if the children later pursue their royal background that their mother seems intent on blocking. The sixth main area involves several efforts to move the children beyond California without securing needed court approval. California law prohibits removing children from state jurisdiction for more than brief trips while custody cases are active, unless the other parent agrees in writing or the court permits it. This rule prevents one parent from complicating litigation through relocation or shifting to a more advantageous venue.